Hey there friends, what is up? I'm Chris Ewing, an advisor to Weld.com, and in this week's episode, I'm going to show you how to make this end table using only the things in this bag. Yes, that includes the welder. Impossible? Ha! I say no. Let's get into it. Alright, so before I dig in too much into what's in the bag, let me start by giving my purpose for this video. Do I want to show you how to make a cool end table? Absolutely. But I'm also aware that a majority of the people watching these Weld.com videos aren't necessarily professionals. We got hobbyists, we got students, we got people that just like to build stuff. So it's helpful to show that you don't need all of the big fancy equipment that I've got in a classroom like this. You know, we're going to get through this with the least expensive possible way that I can think of, at least, to build this particular table. So that's the purpose of the video, showing you how you can make something like this really on a pretty shoestring budget. So what's in the bag? Let's start by going with the one you can see first off. I couldn't really get it to fit inside the bag, but I wanted this to be an all-inclusive thing. Start with a weld hood. You're going to need one. Going with the theme of this particular video, I want to go with probably the least expensive hood that I own. This hood is by Antra. It is an auto darkening hood. I've got my stickers all over it. I've actually been really impressed with this one. I bought it on Amazon and it shipped to my house for less than 35 bucks. I think it was like 32 and some change. Really, the test of these real low dollar weld hoods is that low amperage TIG welding, and so far it's actually held up. It's got a little grind mode button inside. It gives me shades 7 through 13. It's working out so well. The headgear is definitely not the best. This is by far its biggest drawback, but it'll get the job done. What else do we got in the bag? What's in the bag? Got our PPE, right? Got to have our weld jacket. And actually, I don't have to have my weld jacket because this is a flame retardant shirt. So I'm just going to button up this bad boy. It's got a wooden top, my table. So wooden top. You're going to need some sort of saw to cut it. We'll get to that later on. Battery power for that particular saw. You may have a corded one. Go with what you got. Here we have one of the two most important tools in this bag, probably one of the most important tools you'll ever use as a welder, and that is our grinder. This one's a 4.5 inch Metabo brand. Again, you can get away super, super inexpensive. I looked at Harbor Freight's website today. You can get one of these guys for $9.99. $9.99. It's not going to be a Metabo, and it's not going to last you very long. It's going to last you long enough to get through one of these tables. Probably going to last you long enough to get through a dozen of these tables. If you want to make something like that, sell it. You're going to more than make your money back on it, and then you go out and buy the nicer stuff. That's what I always encourage my students to do. Start out on the inexpensive side, slowly work your way up. So, angle grinder. Again, something that most people, hobbyists, professionals, everybody's going to have. What else is in the bag? Yes, the welder fits in the bag as well. What is this? This is my Deco inverter welding machine. Plug it into a 120, 240 outlet. Comes with this fancy adapter so that you can get it into that 120. I've got my leads for that machine over here on the side too. I've got my guard for my grinder. Very important. A combination square, protractor head for my combination square. Again, those you can get super inexpensively from a place like Harbor Freight, Home Depot, something like that. My particular setup that I've had for a long time, it's a little pricier than that. It is a Starrett, super nice if you can afford it. I certainly recommend spending a little bit of extra on that. What else do we have in here? Let's see. We've got safety glasses. That's a necessity. Tape measure. Angle grinder is pretty much useless without something to put on there, right? So we got some cut-off wheels, and we got some flap disc sanders for doing our cleanup and grinding. We got a drill. Use the same batteries as the saw. What are we going to use the drill for? Well, we're going to put a couple of holes in the bottom. We're going to use some screws to hold the wooden top on. Spoiler alert. Gloves. Got to have some welding gloves. Super important. Zero sugar Kool-Aid packets. In case you get thirsty, you don't want to be sipping on water all day long. Get that Kool-Aid. Special shout out to Como caps. Keep one in every bag that I've got. Got to protect that dome. Extra battery. Weld leads. I've got my work lead. I've got my stinger. Little tiny DINS connectors that plug into this machine. And I've got some welpers. Got some rod in here. This bag contained literally everything that I need to be able to do one of these things. Now, are there easier ways of doing this kind of stuff? Absolutely. I'm not here to show you necessarily the easier way. I'm here to show you the least expensive way. All right, so let's talk material for a minute. My students ask me all the time, well, where am I supposed to get the material to do stuff like this? Well, this stuff came directly from our local orange labeled home improvement pallets. We can see that they are 1/8 inch thickness, 1 inch wide by 72 inches long, or 6 feet. They are just plain steel. We can see these two look a little different than those other two. And if we look real closely, we can see that's because the shiny ones were made in the USA and the other two were made in Mexico. So just different plants making parts with different amounts of mill scale on top. That's not a big deal. We're going to paint it anyway. And for the tabletop on this bad boy, we are going with 1/2 inch birch. It's 2 feet wide by a 4 foot sheet. I like to use birch because it's a real light color. It takes the stain really well. This plywood has been pretty strong. It's a little bit more expensive than some of the other materials. This is your table. You can make out of whatever the heck you want, really. All right, let's talk plans. My top hexagon is going to be 24 inches from the longest area. And I used a fancy online calculator to figure out that if its longest edge is 24 inches, each one of those lengths is going to be 12 inches. That's cool. And then for the bottom hexagon, we're going to do 18 inches across, which means each one of our flat pieces will be 9 inches. Here on the side here, you can see I've got my bill of materials essentially. Each one of my vertical members is going to be 24 inches. Now I went through and I figured out if I wanted this thing to be exactly 24 inches tall, my cross members would have to be 24.448 or relatively 7/16. Yeah, I'm not going to go through all that. So we're going to make them 24 inches. I need 6 of those pieces, 6 pieces of 12 inches, 6 pieces at 9 inches, and then just a couple of 1x1s to help me bolt that tabletop down. All right, so let's look at layout. I like to start with my longest pieces first. That way, if I screw something up, well, I can at least cut it down and make one of the shorter pieces out of it. So the longest pieces I'm going to need are 24 inches. Now you can use yourself a pencil, a Sharpie. Here I've got myself some soapstone, so I'm going to go ahead and make my first mark. Take my combination square, line it up there, and I've got it sharpened to a nice little point. There I have my cut line. Put ourselves a little clamp on here, keep that from going anywhere on us. And I'm probably going to throw some gloves on before I go to do this cut. But before I go ahead and make this cut on here, let's talk about kerf. If my overall piece is 72 inches or 6 feet, and I need 12-inch sections out of there, that means I can get 6 perfect 1 foot sections out of it, right? Not exactly. If I go and I shear cut this part, sure, there's no material loss in a shear cut. However, if I'm using an angle grinder or a bandsaw or a chop saw or really any other cutting method, torch, plasma cutter, I'm going to have a material loss every time I make a cut in there. What ends up happening is, so make a 1 foot cut, so I'll say 12 inches, and I do another 12 inches, another 12 inches, another 12 inches, 1, 2, 3, 4, another 12 inches. This last piece, now I'm stuck with the material stack up of the loss every time I've made one of these cuts. If each one of these cuts is a loss of 1/8 of an inch, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5/8 worth of material that I'm losing by the time we get to the end, and this last one is going to be way short for me. So I have a couple of options here. I can figure out exactly what my kerf is going to be and subtract that amount from each one of these so that they're not perfectly right on at 12. Maybe they're 11 and 15/16 or something like that all the way through. That way all of my parts are exactly the same. I can find a shear and shear them up. That way I do make best use of my material, but that's not always an option, right? So I think what we're going to do is we're going to fudge it a little bit. We're going to find out exactly what my kerf is for this particular cutoff wheel, and we'll subtract that amount from each one of these so we end up, well, right on the same, each one of them making the best use of material. Okay, so because of my material loss, I'm not going to be able to get 6 full 12-inch pieces out of here, but what I can do is in these 2 separate pieces, I can get all of my 9-inch sections and all of my 12-inch sections right on by just alternating where I place the cuts that I'm going to do. So this will at least keep my top and my bottom bases right on at the measurements that I had. I'm just going to make sure I put my my cut to the outside of the line that I draw, and we'll look at that in a second. Okay, so what I'm seeing here is my kerf is going to be right around a 1/16 of an inch. So I can split that on both cuts that I make to get these 24-inch pieces. Take my tape measure, and on at 24 inches. Give us a nice straight line to follow. Alright, so I've cut all of my 24-inch lengths. This is where having this protractor is going to come in real handy, because now I got to put angles on the top and bottom of all of these bad boys. And then just a touch of cleanup on each one of these guys. Alright, when you go to cut the second side, you want to make sure that both of those angles are parallel to each other. So you don't want to accidentally get yourself some kind of weird trapezoid shape. Both should be going in the same direction. All right, so what I have here are a couple of pieces of angle of entirely arbitrary length that I'm going to tack down to this table at 120 degrees. That way I can clamp each one of my flats to that, bring them out, and then I can create my hexagon shapes using these guys as a fixture. Okay, so as we can see, I've got my little deco machine hooked up to this extension cord running on the 110 power supply. I've got it set to about 75 amps, and we will be using the Lincoln Excalibur. Ooh, these are 8018 rods, 3/32 in size. So now, as you can see, I can just clamp directly to these guys and get these tacked and welded up. All right, so let's remove our fixture from the table, and then we can start cleaning up some stuff. So now we're going to go ahead and clean up. Okay, so now for the fun part, putting the twist in these uprights to give it a little bit of rigidity, and, you know, it's going to make it look cooler. So what I did on the last one, I'm going to do the same thing here, is I'm going to find my center point. So from edge to edge, we're looking at about 24 inches. So our center point is going to be at 12. Now I'm going to come up 1, 2, 3 inches from there and put a mark. And I'm going to come down 1, 2, 3 inches from there and put a mark. Each one of those marks, go ahead and put a little soapstone line. Okay, so the first time I did this, I went ahead and used my oxyacetylene torches to heat up this whole 6-inch area inside of here to a cherry red before I went ahead and did the twist. But again, whole purpose of this, maybe not everybody out there has oxyacetylene torches ready to go, and you really don't need them. It's not a necessity for the twist part. This material is thin enough that it will wrap. I just find that when you heat it up, you get a little bit more consistent overall twist to it. But basically what we're going to do is we're going to take our adjustable wrench here, and the whole reason we lay out these lines is so that we get it consistent throughout all 6 pieces that we're going to do. And basically you're just going to get about halfway, flip it over. There's our twist. We want to make sure it's relatively straight. And that's going to add some rigidity to it, and it's also going to make it look pretty cool. All right, so I just twisted my first part, and did y'all catch my bonehead move? Because I didn't think about it till just now, but by putting one full rotation in it, both my angles are now, they're not parallel anymore. So I got a couple of options here. I could clamp this back in there, continue the rotation and do another complete rotation around. I might do a test piece to see how that looks on that twist. That might be a good option. Or I can actually come back in and clamp it here and then just do 90-degree twists on both ends, so I get another full rotation out of it over the course of the whole thing. But mistakes happen. I forgot on the first time through, I went ahead and twisted it first and then cut my angles into it. So I didn't make that mistake the first time, but live and learn, I guess. All right, so twisting both ends like that should put me back into a spot where our angles are once again parallel to each other. All right, so I don't have a particularly great way of doing this. So essentially, I'm going to rely on my angle that I've already cut on there. I'm going to line it up with the outside there, and I'm going to go ahead and tack it in place on just a little bit of an angle. I need to move it around a little bit. Shouldn't be too big a deal. Let's grab another one here and go off in the opposite direction. Yeah, those angles look a bit extreme. Skip one, move on to the next one. Skip one. Alright, so I'm trying to adjust these. With any luck, they'll line up pretty closely, and we put the other piece on there. There we go, tacked together. It's time to weld it up. Alright, and here we have our completed frame before it's been cleaned up at all. Still got to put some tabs along the inside, along the top there, for the wood top to rest on. But as you can see, that additional little twist at the top just went ahead and put our angles right back where they needed to be. Alright, let's get her cleaned up. Alright, so all cleaned up on the top side with that flap disc. Not too bad. Now I just got to clean up the bottom as well. Alright, so in order to get the right height for these tabs that hold that wood top on there, I'm going to cut my other wood top first. That way I can use the drops that fall off there to set that height, because I know that that board is not exactly a ½ inch. But if I want it to sit flush with the top of this bad boy, best way to do that, to tack these little tabs in, is to actually put a piece, set that offset. Let's talk saws for a minute. Now, I am not a woodworker by any stretch of the imagination, so doing this mixed material stuff is really cool looking. I like having a wood top on there as opposed to like a metal top or maybe plastic or something else. So let's keep that in mind. If you are a woodworker, you probably have a whole lot better way of doing this stuff than I can come up with. But again, keeping with the theme of inexpensive table building, I'm pretty sure everybody's got a circular saw at home. And if you don't, your dad, your grandpa, somebody out there has one that's 100 years old that still works perfectly fine. The issue with a circular saw is the blade rotation. It's coming up from the bottom and spinning this way. So the face that you actually want showing on top, you're going to want to put that down if you're using a circular saw like that. That would be the opposite, say if you're using a bandsaw or a table saw, you would want facing up. You could do it with a jigsaw or by hand, I suppose. Get old school, go to town. Whatever you got handy to make this one work, that's what you got to do. So we've got this top side down. And all I'm going to do is take my Sharpie here. I don't like that. The Sharpie is not getting into that corner enough. So strike that. And we're going to trace the inside. And voila! I've got my cut lines. Now we talked about kerf earlier when it came to the cutoff wheel, but our circular saw is going to have a kerf also. My goal for this line is I'm going to either try and be to the inside of the line or right down the center of these lines. And what that should do is make it just small enough to fit inside where I don't have to press fit the dang thing in there. All right, so the first cut I'm going to make is actually this inside one. That way I have a smaller piece to work with. Fantastic. Now, see, we got a little bit of this fraying on the inside, but that's why we want this side up. This nice clean edge will now be our top surface. And again, that changes depending on whether you're using a circular saw or some other cutting method. So here we have the top, just kind of dry fit inside of there. It's looking all right. So I haven't welded those tabs on yet. All right, so here we see I've got the tabletop clamped down, and then I've just got this little tab being clamped on top of this piece of wood. So this wood is giving me my offset so that when I mount that tabletop down to it, it'll be nice and flush. So now I just got to get the welder plug back in and put a couple of tacks on there, hold that in place. And there they are. Got two fancy hexagon end tables that'll end up right in my living room. They're almost a matching pair. Got some extra twists in this guy. But it's kind of amazing to think of what we can build out of the stuff that came out of a duffel bag. $120 welder, $50 angle grinder, some cutoff wheels, material straight out of the big box home improvement store. Doesn't get much better than that. It's just proof that anybody that has the interest, the desire, the drive, you can make this stuff yourself. If you got any questions, feel free to ask away. Until next time, take it easy.